Have you ever heard the name Emperor Augustus? He was the first Roman emperor. In the history of ancient Roman government, Julius Caesar is seen as one of the best leaders. Before the tragedy of his murder, he had prepared someone to become the next Roman leader, namely Octavianus Augustus. Even though his leadership was doubted, Augustus then transformed into an accomplished leader and became the first emperor in the Roman imperial government system. Under his rule, the Romans managed to achieve many victories and progress. Behind it all, he also has an interesting life story. Here are the facts. 1. Julius Caesar was his great-uncle. Born on September 23, 63 BC, Augustus grew up in a town about 25 miles southeast of Rome. His father was a senator who died unexpectedly when he was 4 years old. Meanwhile, his mother was Julius Caesar's niece. As a child, Augustus probably didn't see much of his great-uncle's famous raids in Gaul. Eventually, however, he earned Caesar's trust and began spending more time with him, including during military actions in Spain. Thanks to his great-uncle, Augustus was able to join the noble aristocracy, just one of the many honors bestowed upon him. Then, after a group of senators assassinated Caesar in 44 BC, Augustus learned of the newly composed will, in which he was posthumously adopted and bequeathed Julius Caesar's legacy. 2. Augustus is not his birth name. Augustus was originally born Gaius Octavius. But he changed his name to Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus, aka Octavianus, after being adopted by his great-uncle. 17 years later, the Senate awarded him the name Augustus, which means Venerable One, and Divi Filius, Son of God. Augustus never called himself a monarchist or dictator, and he lived in relatively simple circumstances. However, because he gathered the highest Roman power, historians later called him the first emperor of Rome. 3. Failed to expand the Roman Empire. After defeating his rivals, Augustus began consolidating his power, improving Rome's infrastructure and beautifying the city. He also wanted to expand the borders of his empire, bringing Egypt, northern Spain, the Alps, and most of the Balkans under Roman control. Unfortunately, setbacks occurred in Germany when 3 legions were wiped out in an ambush in AD 9, forcing the Romans to retreat west of the Rhine River. Upon hearing news of the defeat, Augustus repeatedly banged his head against the wall and shouted at the general to take responsibility. As part of this expansion effort, Augustus spent many years in Spain, Gaul, Greece, and Asia. However, he himself was no warrior. Often ill on the eve of battle and relying heavily for strategy on his childhood friend Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa. 4. The month of August is named after him. Emperor Augustus, formerly known as Octavian, was one of the most influential Roman leaders in history. After winning the civil war and consolidating his power over Rome, he acquired the title Augustus and became the de facto ruler of the Roman Empire. The month August was named in his honor in 8 BC at the initiative of the Roman Senate. Since then, the month of August has become a symbol of the greatness of Augustus Caesar and the era of the strong Roman Empire. With the era of peace and prosperity achieved by the Emperor Augustus, the Senate then voted in 8 BC to replace the name of the month Sextilis with Augustus. The month itself is the month when Augustus first became consul and won his final battle over Antony and Cleopatra. Before Augustus, the Senate had also changed the month of Quintilis to July in honor of Julius Caesar. 5. He once exiled his own daughter. Emperor Augustus, although known as a strong and influential leader, was also embroiled in personal tragedy involving his own family. One of the most striking incidents was the exile of his daughter, Julia Agrippina the Elder, also known as Julia Agrippina the Younger. Julia Agrippina was the daughter of Emperor Augustus's marriage to his second wife, Scribonia. In 2 BC, Julia Agrippina was involved in a moral scandal involving an inappropriate love affair. Emperor Augustus was deeply disturbed by her indecent behavior and decided to exile her to the island of Patriae in the Tyrrhenian Sea, off the coast of Italy. Julia Agrippina lived in harsh and inhumane exile for several years before her death. The princess's exile was an example of the harsh policies implemented by Emperor Augustus, which shows that he does not hesitate to take firm action even against members of his own family in order to maintain his power and authority. Although he later allowed her to move to a less isolated place, where he never saw her again. Augustus also banished his grandson over accusations of adultery, although in both cases historians believe additional factors may have played a role. 6. Potential successors always die mysteriously. Without having a son, Augustus spent much time and energy trying to prepare a successor. He focused his initial attention on his nephew Marcellus, whom Julia married in 25 BC. But Marcellus fell ill and died several years later around the age of 21. Next, Augustus groomed Agrippa, his friend and general, who, although 25 years older than Julia, they later had 3 sons and 2 daughters. Augustus adopted and helped raise 2 older boys, Gaius and Lucius. But, again, death approached them. The first died at the age of 23 after being wounded in Armenia, and the second died at the age of 19 after contracting an unknown disease in Gaul. Meanwhile, Julia and Agrippa's third son, it is said, was full of anger and was finally sent into exile. After Agrippa's death, Augustus forced his stepson Tiberius to divorce his beloved wife and marry Julia, but they had only one child who died in infancy. These are the facts of the life of the first Roman emperor, Octavianus Caesar Augustus. Thank you for watching this video until the end. Hopefully this video can increase your knowledge. If this video is useful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. See you in the next video.